Thanks for listening to Better Business, Better Life. I'm your host, Deborah Chantry-Taylor. We're going to do something a little bit fun now. This podcast, would you believe, has been going since 2020. It started off as a bit of a fun hobby, and now some 5 or 6 years later, we're 260 episodes in and still going strong. Each week I produce a new episode, but I thought it might be fun to bring back some of the old episodes and leave them just exactly as they were. So no tweaks, no edits. So there might be a little bit of poor quality in there, but at least you'll get to see and hear from some of the most amazing business people that I've spoken to over those 5 or 6 years. I really hope you enjoy the episodes, and don't forget, if you ever need any help, just reach out to me. I'm only an email away, deborah@businessaction.com.au or deborah@businessaction.co.nz. Better Business, Better Life, here to help. So good morning and welcome to another episode of Better Business, Better Life. Today I am joined by Kerry Boulton, who is a professional EOS implementer, a certified exit planner and a certified value builder. She's also the author of 2 books. Her first one was The Uncensored Truth About Exit Strategy, and the second one is $1 Million Payday, and both I think have been on the bestseller list. Welcome, Kerry.
Thank you, Deborah. I'm delighted to be here.
It's really good. I know that you and I obviously talk quite a lot through the EOS network, but I'm really keen to hear more about some of the things that you do and some of the clients that you've worked with, and just get a sense of, why people would exit plan and what that looks like.
Sure thing.
Yeah. So the first thing I'd like to do is just ask you for a professional and personal best, just so our listeners can get to know the Kerry Boulton.
Mm-hmm. So let me start with personal best, and I'm really proud of this, actually. I made a wonderful lemon mousse. That's and frankly, I don't do a lot of cooking these days, but when you've been cooking for 50 years, sometimes you've had enough of it. So but I have a friend's birthday coming up, and I did a trial on it, and it was absolutely delicious. So I've mastered the Danish Christmas lemon mousse.
Wow, sounds good.
To die for. So I'm very happy with that. And I think also that just seeing out the last Saturday of cricket blast with my 150 kids that I muster every Saturday morning, I think that's a personal best as well, quite frankly. Anyway, something I love doing. But and professionally, I think that this year gone by, I'm going to sort of probably put it in that context. I think professionally has, as we all know, has been quite challenging with the pandemic that's been going on. But I think that throughout we've been, and I've certainly put you in this category as well, we've professionally been able to help a lot of business owners and pivot, the work that we've been doing to online when necessary, and really help them get going on, and keep their businesses solid throughout the whole period, and put them on a good footing, going forward, no matter what global conditions we might be in. So yeah, I think that's something to reflect on, which is really positive.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, it has been a challenging year, but you're right. It gives me such joy to kind of work with those people and help them through that, as I know it does you too. Yeah. So Kerry, you've been obviously a professional EOS implementer for a while. We both work with those sort of clients, but you've also got the 2 certifications in both the exit strategy and the value building. Tell me a little bit about that and what do you mean by an exit strategy?
Yes, I'm just going to reflect back to when I bought my first business, which was back in 1987. So that's how long ago. Yeah. And I happened to be a general manager of the business. It was a division of a large public company. And at the time, they were looking ahead strategically, deciding that they didn't really want to be in that particular industry. In fact, a number of industries, they wanted to change direction completely and move into the health industry because they looked ahead and could see demographically where things were going. That has all played out, of course. Yeah. So this was a business involved in international freight forwarding. And I saw the opportunity to be able to do some really good things with that particular business, having worked in the business for quite some time. And corporates always think about succession planning, but very few private businesses think about succession planning. Sometimes family businesses do, but mostly private business owners don't think about it. And you might coin that as exit. But I first learned about the thing called exit strategy when I had to put together a business plan to get investors to help me buy that business. I went to a very dear friend and mentor, and he said, Kerry, you write the plan, you can convince me, I'll help you get the money together. And we needed about $1 million at the time. So, and my husband and I had nothing. So it was only, hey, who cares? You don't know what you don't know, do you?
No, that's right.
Anyway, I happened to come across, I mean, I had no idea how to write that sort of a plan, quite frankly. Anyway, I came across an ad in the paper for a book called How to Write Plans That Win Dollars. And it was by a couple of professors out of MIT in the US. And I sent off for the book. This is like, clip the coupon, put in your credit card details, send off for the book. And it arrived, and I literally wrote my plan by the book. In it, they said you had to have an exit strategy. So if you're getting investors into a business, the investor needs to know how to get their money out, or what the plans are to get their money out. I mean, they're not going to stay with you because you want to run this as a lifestyle business for the rest of your life. You know, they've got to know how they're going to get their money out. So, and our exit strategy was to grow the business and hopefully sell it off to an international group somewhere between the 5 and the 10-year mark. And so that was the sum total of the exit strategy at that particular time. Now, as it turned out, look, highs and lows, obviously, in all of that. My daughter was born the day I had to sign the contract to take over the business, my first child. So that was a nice little challenge, which you don't know what you don't know, just the same. And so the fact that we actually had that notion, highs and lows, as I said, right throughout the process with that business. But we did actually have someone come and approach us at around the 6-year mark, and we did the deal, sold the business. I stayed on for another couple of years. So 9 years later, we're out. Now, most people don't think about who the most important investor is in their business, which of course is themselves. You know, even if they're 100% shareholder, they are the most important investor in the business. So thinking about how somewhere down the track you're going to move on from that business is really important, because guess what? We are all going to exit our businesses one day, simply because we are human. It's the bottom line. So let's think about it. It doesn't really matter whether you want to consider whether you want to stay in your business for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, or whether you really are focused on, you know, building, like we were, building a business and selling it at a point, you know, or for it to be transitioned to someone else in the family, for instance, or management. You know, there's so many different ways you can actually exit a business. But but most people don't think about it, and they often don't think about it until they're on top of it, and then they're into either a fire sale or some crisis has emerged, like, you know, things that we call the dastardly Ds, I call it, that's my name for it, the dastardly Ds. And it's like things like, well, maybe it's declining sales. You know, there's, hey, in this last couple of years that we've had with COVID, it's so many business owners have rethought, what do they want to do? You know, in the future, do they really want to be under the pressure that they've been under in these last couple of years? So you might have that, like declining sales. You might have disagreement. You might have business partners. You might have some, you know, disagreement going on. You could just be over it. Hey, that's the case with a lot of business owners right at this minute. It's been so tough. You could, I mean, divorce, unfortunately, you know, that sort of happens and affects your businesses. You could have an accident. You could have some sort of disability happen. You could be underwater, you know, with so much debt. You could have some sort of a disaster happen. And look, the worst thing of all, it could be that, you know, someone dies in your family. And, you know, that's what's happened as well. I have that personal experience. You know, my husband passed away 3 years ago, and that was our 4th business that we've had. we had in place, fortunately, we practiced what I preach. So
Yeah.
we had in place the right business succession agreement, the right shareholders agreement. So that was a triggering event, you know, that so if somebody who was the shareholder passed away, then obviously we would enact what happened. Now, in the event, our other two shareholders were having trouble managing everything and getting along, and they both came to see me independently. And so I ended up stepping into the business for a couple of years, just about a couple of years, but that was never the intention. And we already had enacted what was required under the business succession agreement and the shareholders agreement. So I just went in there as a consultant because of my expertise to be able to help them, you know, to get through that period. Because, you know, if that happens, if that's sort of one of the contingencies that you need to think about, you know, what happens if something like that occurs?
Yep.
Most of the time you don't want the partner or spouse necessarily stepping into the business. You know, you want it to be continue to be the professional organization that it is. So but yeah, so that's all around thinking about exit, you know, and thinking about whatever. It doesn't matter about the time frame, but it's about starting to think about it now and have some idea around what that's actually going to be for you. And frankly, exit strategy is simply business strategy. It's nothing else. It's nothing more than the implementation of really good business practices, such as EOS, and focusing on enterprise value, and that'll actually drive a much better outcome, including a better lifestyle, and you know, then for everybody, and it will simply drive your wealth. And you know, it's really important to consider what stage of growth cycle that you're in as well. Because I think with most of our EOS clients, where they're often in the growth phase, and you know, they're sort of at the scale and systemized phase, or even slightly beyond that. But even it's so important to understand that when you're in that phase, you're really optimizing the best time to consider the succession, or if it's a sale, what that next phase of your life will be. And then because if you ride the business over the top in terms of its growth trajectory, nothing's, you know, you're thinking, oh, I'm just going to go for another couple of years, then you know, you're just sort of waiting for too long. You've gone over the top of the growth curve, and you're not really ready. As I said before, you know, you never know what might happen, but if you can really just give it some further thought and understand how you are looking at those sorts of contingencies, and if you end up with sort of being low on energy, and you lose the passion for your business and the motivation, and you just want out, then that's not going to give you the most successful outcome in terms of reaching the you know, the wealth levels necessarily that you're looking for as well.
So in that respect then, so it's almost like you should always be planning for the exit right from the beginning, and knowing what you want out of the business and when you want that exit to happen, so you can actually maximize the value at a time when you're still engaged, when you're still when you're ready, when you're absolutely ready. So I mean, two things to think about, that yes, your business, and make sure you should always be running your business so that it's ready to sell at any stage. It doesn't matter, because you never know when someone's going to come along. Some of our listeners might remember a guy by the name of Kerry Packer, who is certainly famous here in Australia. And have you heard of him, Deb? Yeah, I have. Well, I've lived in Australia for 10 years, so yes, I know.
Okay, so you will. So he's obviously, well, the Packer family media moguls, basically, they have been. However, at the time, it was back in the 80s, and Kerry Packer owned Channel 9 in the Nine network around Australia, and Alan Bond who is also another entrepreneur, Australian entrepreneur, bit of a raconteur, I think. Yeah. Anyway, hey, won the America's Cup in 1983 for Australia, so we were happy about that. But large as life and quite a character as well. Well, he came along and he offered Kerry Packer $1 billion for the Channel 9 network. And Kerry Packer's famously saying that you only ever get one Alan Bond in your lifetime, and I've had mine. And so, of course, he sold the network. Mind you, he did buy it back 3 years later when it, you know, for about a quarter of the price, because Alan Bond's team couldn't run it. But hey, that's another story. But what I want to relate that to is that always having your business ready to sell means that you are ready for that Alan Bond if that Alan Bond ever comes along in your lifetime. Yeah. And you know what? I have to say, we had that experience as well. We were so lucky. What's that Oprah saying? You know, luck comes to being prepared, or so. I think I've seen that quote in something that you've written, Deb, as well. And it happened for us in 2007, which was with our third business, in fact, and which was in real estate, and somebody wanted to buy our shares. They wanted that business, and I can tell you right now, we had not even contemplated selling the business at all. Yep. But they came along, they made us an offer too good to refuse, and we said yes, thank you, we'll have that, and we're out of here. And it was really fortunate. I mean, that was my husband actually stayed on as a list and sell sales agent because he wanted to. It wasn't conditional, as it turned out. That was not conditional in terms of the sale. But it and for him that was great because he loved doing that. But he then got sick after a couple of years. He then actually got sick with bowel cancer, and he resigned and left. So he did get well again, and then we started again in 2011. So, you know, those things can happen. So you've got to have something else to move on to. But as I said before, unfortunately, it got him 6 years later, and he passed away. But, you know, the thing is that you never know when these opportunities will come along. And so always having your business ready, regardless, is going to allow you to take advantage of that opportunity if it happens. And it's also going to mean that you're actually running your business to have it as valuable as it can possibly be. That's really important. Which is better for you at the same time. It is absolutely better for you at the same time, because you'll have much better income and you'll be creating a basis for your future wealth. Because sadly, there are some research has been done by the Commonwealth Bank actually a few years ago now, and I don't think the numbers really will have changed, but of the business owners that they surveyed, 90% of the business owners' wealth was tied up in their businesses. So when you consider, and this again was a research study done, I think it was Deloitte's, that 80% of the businesses that go on the market, of 80%, only 20% of the businesses sell that go on the market. So if you've got 90% of your wealth tied up in your business, and you happen to be
selling it,
yeah, exactly. So what I'm really doing is just saying to people, think about it. Think about what your strategy is. Doesn't matter whether it's in 3 years or 33 years from now. Just think about how it is that you might want to exit your business one day. And the business is one thing. Look, it can be family succession. You might sell it. It could be management buyout. Oh gosh, there are many different ways to actually exit your business. But I also want you to think about then, if you happen to be a bit closer to that, what are you going to do personally? So, and often when I give talks, I say to people that I'm now in what I call my 6th reinvention. So I have retired 3 times. The first time was only for 2 weeks. That was enough. I couldn't cope. That was in 1996. So I can't cope with this anyway. And I took myself off to university because I'd never been to uni. Started working when I was 15. So unfortunately, my sister and I, we actually lost our parents at a very young age as well. So we were out in the workforce, probably sooner than most. But anyway, so I took myself off to university and did a master's degree in entrepreneurship and innovation. And at the same time started another business in business coaching. And we bought into our first real estate business. So we were busy parents, and we had 2 children. So we're busy people, And then, I love doing what I was doing with business coaching, and did that for 9 years. And we had about 120 clients at the time. And but then I did think about it that I thought maybe I need to spend a little bit of time with the kids before they completely grow up and disappear on us. But so I became mum's taxi for a few years, and we had the real estate business going great guns as well. And leopards don't change their spots, but it's like throwing yourself into all sorts of other things, which for me, being a person that loves business, I threw myself into our local community, into the schools, ended up president, of course, of the Parents Association. And I am still heavily involved locally with our community because I really love it. With, the local community is fantastic. Even though my son has just turned 31 and my daughter's 34. In fact, they've been hooked in as well. I mean, they came through the local sports club, and as I said, I still run the cricket blast program on Saturday mornings. So we've been involved for 26 years, and I've been 16 years secretary of the club. But so these are things that are creating purpose, and so for people who are nearer their exit, it's really important to think about what it is, what else you want to do. I mean, I was in Rotary as well for 21 years, and I thoroughly enjoyed doing it. But at the end of the day, something had to give. I was trying to do too much. I still try to do too much, but hey, that's who you are, aren't you?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's just imagine that, one of the listeners is running a successful kind of established business, and they're thinking about, okay, I hadn't really thought about exiting, but I probably should do. Where would they first start? What would they do?
The first thing that you'd really want to do would be to sit down and give some thoughts, so to maybe these sort of 5 questions, really, at the high level more than anything. How much longer do you want to be actively involved in your business? And I mean, if it's vague and you say, oh, well, at least another 5 years, well, dig it a little bit deeper than that. Go, think about it, because it makes it easier for you to be able to look back at what you want to accomplish before you actually walk away, and it's also important because it actually triggers the other actions that you might want to take strategically, for your business. So exits take a long time. If you think that you can just have it all happen and execute in 60 days, then think again, because it takes a long time. It does. So it's around thinking strategically about where you want your business to go, which of course dovetails beautifully into what we do with EOS, which is really important. So maximizing the value of your business is number one, thinking about, which of course dovetails into that question, how much longer do you really want to be in your business, actively involved in your business? Number 2, who's likely to be your successor? Have you thought about it? Have you thought about, do you have children that might want to be involved in the business? Is there family? You could be in a situation, we have grown-up children now, and yes, they're going to be involved, but there's one that will be appropriate, one that won't be, or not, or it might be not who you think,
Yes.
So yeah, think about who your successor might be. Maybe it's children. Could it be management? Will you sell your business? I mean, so for me, like with the business that I was in early in the freight forwarding business, as part of May Nicholas, then they wanted to sell it to an international group and they couldn't do it. But I said I was interested, and they finally came back to me. So we did a management buyout. So, you know, management could be one way of doing it. Or, as I said, would you look for a buyer that can actually take it to new heights, at the, you know, and make it far more valuable? So maybe it could be one of your customers, or maybe it could be a supplier, or maybe it's a competitor. I mean, there's so many different options that you need to think about, but it just depends on you. So it depends on your goals and, you know, what sort of industry you're in, what your company culture is as well. So the third thing I'd like you to think about as well would be, what do you need when you transition out of the business in terms of the transaction, so that you've got financial independence, and that, you know, you have what you need for what, if you're going on to a new venture or adventure, or are you going to retire? You know, what's the number that you actually need? And it's a freedom number. So you know, there are impacts on that, of course, what you're going to pay in terms of taxation. Do you have the right structure? I've worked with business owners who've said, yes, they've got the right structure, but then when we've dug into it, they don't have the right structure, and they're going to be up for far more tax than they anticipated. So it's really important to make sure that you have a look at your legal structure and your potential future taxation liabilities if you do sell the business. Thinking about what you're going to do next, as I've talked about already. Do you have a hobby? Do you have a project? Do you have a new venture? Do you want to go build a house somewhere? Do you want to travel? Are you going to go back to school like I did? You know, and I've got to tell you, I ended up teaching at the university for 3 years as well after I finished the degree. Wow. They got me back because they said I was on the wrong side of the desk all the time. So, so whatever those things are that you think you might want to do, they will actually affect the transaction. Yeah. And I also often tell the story about my uncle, who was an incredibly successful businessman, started from zero, you know, as an electrician working out of his parents' backyard. And he was in electrical contracting and consulting and engineering, and he grew a business at its height. He had 14 different companies, 500 staff. He was all over Australia. And remember sitting down with him after we'd sold the freight business, and he said to me, Kerry, I wish I'd done what you've just done 10 years ago. Right. It ultimately took him another 10 years to actually get out of all the businesses, and he was really excited. Fantastic, I'll be able to play golf 3 days a week. I can catch up with my mates. We can have coffees, we can do lunches, etc., etc., etc. And which was great, but it doesn't last. You know, it lasted about a year. Unfortunately, 12 months later, he was in clinical depression because he hadn't.
Nothing to do.
Well, he hadn't thought about his identity, yeah. And his identity was his business. So when you're on the golf course, you are not the owner of that business any longer. You know, you are sort of, you don't want someone coming up to you and sort of saying, well, who are you when you used to be somebody? But now you're not, you know. So it's very, very important, and particularly for men, because unfortunately men seem to be less inclined to think about what else it is that they're going to be, and they to acknowledge that your identity is really tied up in who you are in your business is really important. And then to look for how you're going to recreate that identity and what else it is that you're going to do. You might have a great loving partnership at home, etc. But you know, it could be I married you for better or worse, but not for lunch, you know. So you know, women are better at creating lives that are not totally dependent on the one identity. So think about that. Think about your plans for your next step and what that's going to be, and run your numbers and understand what it is that you're going to need in your back pocket. And most people think about the maximum they think that their business is worth. So this leads me on to the next point, which is, do you know what your business is really worth on the open market? Regardless of whether or not you're going to sell it. Just think, do you know what your business is worth? So I highly advocate getting an independent valuation. It doesn't have to be something that you pay thousands and thousands of dollars for. In fact, as a certified value builder, one of the things I can do is give people the opportunity to do that questionnaire online. It's nothing, but it'll benchmark you. It doesn't cost you a penny. It's going to benchmark your business against other businesses in your same industry. You can pop your numbers in there. It's completely confidential, and it will give you a benchmark valuation, so you have some idea. So it's really important to understand and know what your business is worth. And as I said also earlier, think about your what should you be doing now to minimize your future tax liabilities, because you will pay tax on any sort of transfer of your business, generally speaking. And then you need to consider the implications of that going forward, as to what you need for the rest of your life.
Makes perfect sense. Hey, look, you've already given us 5 really great questions that people can actually ask themselves. But in terms of top 3 tips, what would you say to people who are considering what their exit strategy looks like?
Well, I think really first thing is give some thought as to how you're going to get out of the business. And if shutting the business down that's an option. You can always liquidate. I mean, it depends on the type of business that you have. That is always an option. So think about what it is how you're going to actually leave the business. What sort of exit strategy are you going to engage in?
And would your book help with that?
Oh, totally. Absolutely. There's a number of free resources that I refer to in the $1 Million Payday book, especially. The Uncensored Truth book is really about more of it's thought-provoking, because like you've heard the expression that it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it actually takes a village to exit your business, because you need people around you who have expertise in all the right areas. So, the tax lawyer, the financial planner, probably you need the accountant, your accountant who's going to fix up your books, maybe an estate planner as well. It's really important. So and if you've got somebody who's standing in your shoes for you, which is the sort of role that I play. I'm not a business broker, and I'm not an M&A expert. I happen to have had a lot of personal experience, which helps, in that regard. And that's why I'm on this mission, to help educate business owners to understand that it's so important to think about these things, to be in control, and to be able to plan an exit so you can have it on your terms and in the time frame that you want to have. I guess that's really the nub of it,
Fantastic. So here's some thought about how you're going to get out of the business. Definitely have a look at your books and the resources in there and ask those 5 questions, and that should get you some way towards getting an exit strategy in place. Perfect. Now, Kerry, I know that you're based in Melbourne, but you actually work with people all over the world, don't you?
I do, as a matter of fact. I do. I work with some clients I've worked with in North America as well as the UK. And actually I haven't worked with anybody in New Zealand directly at this stage, but it doesn't matter, the principles are the same. But I've certainly worked with businesses all over Australia, in every single state. So it's just giving yourself enough time is the answer to all of those questions that we talked about.
Don't be in a hurry, because that's when it costs you.
Correct.
Absolutely. Okay, great. Well, if anybody wants to get hold of you, how would they find you?
So there's you could go to my website, which is theexitstrategygroup.com.au. You'll find me on LinkedIn, where I'm Kerry Boulton, Kerry with a Y, Boulton with a U, Boulton, and I've even got Holdsworth in LinkedIn because that's my married name. So you can find me on LinkedIn as well. You can just reach out and connect there. And all the resources that I've talked about are available through my website as well. So
that's fantastic. And of course, you're also on the EOS Worldwide website as well.
I am, absolutely.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I learned about EOS. I think I've told you the story before. I learned about EOS when I was over at the Exit Planning Institute conference in the US, and saw a presentation from a couple of M&A private equity guys who were demonstrating how they evaluated businesses based on the 6 key components in EOS.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's how I learnt about it. So I came back and did my own due diligence, back then, and discovered it from my perspective, because it wasn't really top of mind anywhere here.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, this is fantastic, because business readiness, business attractiveness, personal readiness, and financial readiness.
Okay.
Business readiness, when I run through my initial assessment with people, and usually highlight, I mean, it's about 360 questions we go through. It often highlights the gaps. Well, it does. It highlights the gaps, and so we work on closing the gaps. And EOS dovetails perfectly into the business element. So that's why I became a professional EOS implementer as well. So
yep.
It gives me a chance to be able to offer another string to my bow. Yeah.
It was also why Firefly ended up as a venture capitalist investing in EOS, right? Because EOS runs on EOS. Yeah,
that's
so
right.
It definitely makes your business far more attractive, which is great.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Kerry, look, we could talk all day, I'm sure, but that has been really informative. Thank you so much for sharing. I will make sure we've got links to all those resources in the description for the podcast. But thank you very, very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure, Deborah. Thank you.